Today, the UFC is going to Mexico this Saturday night, where in the main event, Brandon Moreno will step in the octagon with Brandon Raw Dog Royval. It's going to be a battle of the Brandons on Saturday night. Also, what about Yair Rodriguez stepping in the octagon in a rematch against Brian Ortega? Let's hope Brian Ortega's shoulder is pieced together correctly this time. Also, the rest of the card is looking pretty solid, so only thing I can say is, at least it's not an Apex card. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. Your boy Matt bringing you the breakdown of UFC Fight Night in Mexico. It goes down this Saturday night, where, as I said, in the main event, Brandon Moreno steps in the octagon with Brandon Raw Dog Royval. Man, this is going to be a very interesting fight at flyweight. Honestly, I'm going to go along with Brandon Moreno. And here's the thing. I think Brandon Moreno I think he's definitely going to be the better of the stand-up fighters between these two. His stand-up is going to be a little bit sharper, a little bit crisper. He has an amazing jab. You know, he's got a tremendous chin on him. It's hard to put Brandon Moreno away. We've seen him in multiple battles with Figgy Smalls, Davison Figueiredo, and Brandon Moreno can take a hit. He can take a shot, get dropped, recover, and continue in the fight. To me, on this one, I would say this fight would be a lot more even if I hadn't seen that fight with Pantoja and Royval. Now, I'm not sure if that was a case of nerves on Brandon Royval's side, you know, being like his first title shot, being his history he already had with Pantoja. So I'm not sure if he didn't perform due to, you know, a lot of people say the lights were too bright in that instance, something along those lines. I'm not really sure. His first major, you know, main event for a title shot or title in that fight. But you know, it's really hard to say, because on the other side of the coin, you have to wonder, how long will Brandon Moreno's chin hold up? Because he's taken some devastating blows from a lot of the flyweights. But, you know, he tends to always keep it together, but still. So it's something to really keep in mind on that side as well. But I'm going to go along with Brandon Moreno to go out there and get the win. He's had quite a bit of time off. You know, I wouldn't say too much time off. He hasn't been out of the octagon for too long. But he's taken some time off. Hopefully his chin is healed up. Hopefully he's you know, reinvigorated. He's back. You know, I'm sure he wants to get another crack at the title. And, you know, another crack at Pantoja. So we'll see how it plays out, how it goes down. But I'm going to go along with Brandon Moreno to get the win here. I know that Brandon Royval definitely holds the, I wouldn't say the wrestling, but the grappling advantage over Moreno. And I definitely think he has the better or more sneakier submissions over Moreno. But I'm going to go along with Brandon Moreno to go out here, get the win in front of a live Mexican crowd. You know, I definitely think it's going to be an extremely good and back and forth main event. But I think Moreno is going to edge this one out and get the win there. Now, in the co-main event, we're looking at Yair Rodriguez stepping in the octagon in a rematch against Brian Ortega. So their first fight ended extremely quickly when they were in the middle of a grappling exchange, and Brian Ortega's shoulder popped out. So, you know, the fight was stopped, and that was pretty much the end of it. The thing is, man, is, you know, I can do nothing but go along with Yair Rodriguez once again in this matchup. Mainly because, not saying that Brian Ortega is not a skilled fighter or anything like that, but we just don't see him in the octagon enough. And what we're really seeing now, in the past, you would have fighters like Dominic Cruz come back after taking off like 3 or 4 years almost, and they would come back and they would win big fights. And you're like, oh, I guess ring rust is not really a thing. And you would see like guys like John Jones come in against competition that just wasn't up to his level. He'd take a few years off, by, whatever causes John Jones to take a few years off, you know what I'm saying? But he would come back in there against lesser competition, do his thing, and still get a win. So a lot of people were believing that ring rust wasn't really a thing. Now what we're seeing is something totally different, because you've seen guys like Henry Cejudo come back, and ring rust was definitely a thing, and guys didn't look the same. You're seeing Colby Covington come back, and he doesn't look the same. You're seeing a lot more that these fighters are coming back after taking long periods of time off, and the competition that's left in the octagon is just too good. That's just what it is. So it's like, I don't know if ring rust is really a thing, or the competition has just elevated to the point that when these fighters come back after long layoffs, they're still going out there and they're taking L's, because these other fighters are advancing so quickly. Their skills are getting so good so quickly in such a short amount of time that you really can't take any time off. Because when you do, you come back and the game has passed you by, and these other fighters who have been in the octagon back to back to back have leveled up. So with that being said, I got to go along with Yair Rodriguez. Now, it's not like Yair's out here setting the world on fire and taking fights every 3 or 4 months. But he's still been way more active. I mean, he's fought for a title since he's become an interim champion, and he's fought for a title since we seen Brian Ortega last. So, I mean, with that being said, I got to go along with Yair Rodriguez. And as well as I believe he is the more skilled fighter, not to say that Brian Ortega can't beat him, or Brian Ortega at one point in his career wasn't as skilled as Yair Rodriguez, but you got to go along with, as Floyd Mayweather would say, the proof is in the pudding. And we got to go along with Yair Rodriguez on this to go out there and get the win. So, El Pantera for me. Anyway, let's move on. Next, we have Daniel Zellhuber stepping in the octagon with Francisco Prado. I'm going along with Zellhuber on this one. I really like for this division his size and his range and his length for this division. Francisco Prado definitely is he's definitely a fighter that will grit down, bite down on his mouthpiece and do what he needs to do in there. He's very skilled. Both guys are definitely young in their UFC career, of course, but I'm actually going to go along with Daniel to get the win. I think in front of this pro-Mexican crowd, there in Mexico, I just have a feeling that he's going to be able to go out there and get it done. He definitely seems like a guy that's really putting together all aspects of the game. He has good striking. Like I said, again, he has the range. He has the reach. Also, I think he's really good at scrambles. He's really good at grappling, and I think he's no slouch in the wrestling department. To me, he seems to be the more well-rounded fighter. Now, and I don't know, I could be wrong on this one, but in my opinion, I feel like Prado might pack a little bit more of the power advantage, the power in his shots, but I'm going to go along with Daniel to go out there and get the win. Next, we have Raul Rosas Jr. stepping in the octagon with Ricky Turcios. This one is a hard one to call, because even though, Rosas looked really good in his bounce back fight, after taking that loss, at the same time, it's just a lot is unproven about Rosas. He definitely is getting a lot of the fanfare because he's so young. He's out there. We all know that he's going to get better because he's so young in his career and he continues to train all the time. But I'm just not really sure about his skill set. Now, I know he's going to be the larger of these two guys, but I think Ricky, while his stand up could be a little, I don't know how to describe it. It could be a little goofy at times. I'm not trying to really disrespect the man, but at times he kind of makes some goofy decisions as to the wild spin kicks and things that he will throw. But he seems that overall, in my opinion, he seems to me he would be the more well-rounded fighter. I believe by far Rosas would be the better on the ground. I would definitely say Ricky would have the advantage in the stand-up department. Rosas, I believe, would definitely have the advantage on just raw, double leg takedowns, takedown, coming from a single leg. I believe that Rosas is definitely going to have the advantage there. But I believe that Ricky is a little bit more well-rounded, if that makes sense. I don't think he has the advantage on the ground, but I think he has sneaky submissions. He can do well enough in scrambles with his sneaky submissions and what he tries to cinch up, ninja chokes, things like that. I feel that he might be the more well-rounded guy. I definitely think he has the advantage on the feet, even though he has kind of a goofy striking style, so to speak. This one's very hard to call. I'm going to lean toward Ricky, but it wouldn't shock me if Rosas goes out there, they get into a scramble, they goes to the ground or up against the cage. Rosas will pull guard without question if he this kid is wild. You know what I'm saying? This kid right here, he's a wild one. You know what I'm saying? He's untamed. Like, I can only imagine, being around, as young as he is to be fighting, I can only imagine what it would have been like to be his friend in school. You know what I'm saying? He would be that guy like, it's like, look, hey, Rawdon got in trouble again. We got to go down to the office and talk him down because he's getting ready to choke out the principal. You know what I'm saying? Like, this kid is wild. So I could definitely see him getting the win, but I'm going to lean more toward Ricky. However, I wouldn't be shocked if Raw goes out there and gets the win in this one. Next, we have Yasmin Uruguay, if I'm saying her last name correctly, against Sam Hughes. I got to go along with Yasmin to get the win. She's going to be there in front of the Mexican crowd. I definitely think she's going to go out there and get the win. I know she had a stumble, in her last fight, but I don't think that that's any reflection of her trajectory in the division. I think she's still on her way to the top. I think she's still a prospect. That was probably a little bump in the road, a little learning fight, learn a few things, learn what not to do, learn what to do. So I'm going along with Yasmin to go out there and get the win. Next, we have Manuel Torres versus Chris Duncan. This one is a hard one to call because in Chris Duncan's last fight, I didn't really know that he was that good of a wrestler. And he possessed the ability to take guys down and just literally ground them and hold them to the mat. So, in my opinion, that would be his route to victory. But I'm going to go along with Manuel to get the win here. I think a lot of the times certain types of fighters I feel like benefit from being in front of a crowd that leans more into their favor, so to speak. And I think you used to see in the past when Brazilians would fight in Brazil that they were almost unstoppable. They were almost unbeatable. There were times that you see in these UK cards that the UK fighters would almost be unbeatable there in the UK. They've kind of faltered a little bit, but still, I think it still rings true with them. But you also see with the Canadian fighters, when the Canadian fighters go out there and fight, that last card, they all got washed except for the female Canadian fighters. I think a pro France card, France, I think fighters from France fight extremely well in front of their fans. And I also feel like Mexican fighters are the same way. I'm gonna go along with Manuel Torres to go out there and get the win. I think he could probably edge out Chris Duncan, in a 3-round decision. So I'm going to go along with him to get the win. Although it wouldn't shock me if Chris Duncan is able to go out there, get the fight to the mat, and just ground Manuel all 3 rounds. But I think he's going to have issues at any point that the fight is standing with Torres. So we'll see how that goes. So in these next couple of fights, I'm just going to rattle off who I think is going to win. Just to kind of get through some of these because, they are fights that I do want to see, but they're not like at the top of my list. So we have Christian Quinones stepping in there against Barcelos. I got Christian to get the win. Not saying that Barcelos is not a good fighter or anything, but he's definitely been up and been down in his UFC career and been down more than he's been up. So I'm going to go along with Christian to get the win. We got Jesus Aguilar stepping in there against Mateus Mondeca. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. I'm actually going to go along with Jesus to get the win there. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not too confident in that pick, but I think Jesus will be able to do enough to get the win there. We have Edgar Chairez stepping in there with Daniel Lacerda. I'm going along with Edgar to get the win there. I really like his stand-up. I think he is very crisp stand-up, very crisp shots. I'm going to go along with him to get the win. I think he'll be able to, even if it goes to the scorecards, I think he'll be able to do enough to get the decision. So I'm going to go along with Edgar to get the win there. We also have Claudio Puelles stepping in there with, I do apologize, I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, Faraz Zaim. I'm going to go along with Zaim to get the win there. I think he's a really good fighter from France. I think, in his last fight, I believe that was against Guy Herbert. I think he's got some chops to him. He seems to be a very technical guy. He's not a wild guy that's going to go out there and swing and do all this crazy stuff. But he seems to be pretty sound in his game plans. And I think he's going to be able to do enough to go out there and get the win. We have Luis Rodriguez stepping in there with Bundar. I don't really know who to pick in that one. I mean, Rodriguez is so new. I don't really know what's going to go down there. And then there's Bundar. And, what do you want me to say? I just don't, I don't know. This is not one that I'm really super looking forward to. So I'm not even going to make a pick there. I'm sorry, but I'm just not, I don't know. What do you want from me? Y'all write in the comments who you think is going to win that one, because you'll be helping me out on DraftKings. DraftKings, holla at me. I'm still waiting on that sponsorship. Holla at me, DraftKings. I'm out here doing the Lord's work. I'm promoting you. I'm betting with you every weekend. So holla at me. Your boy trying to get a plug in. Anyway, next we have Victor stepping in there against Felipe Dos Santos. I was tremendously impressed by Felipe Dos Santos in his Octagon debut. Even though he took an L there, that guy, he's got that dog in him. He showed heart. That guy, I'm going along with Felipe Dos Santos on this one. That just might be a vibes pick for me or a fan pick for me, but I'm going along with him to get the win. And finally, we have Eric Silva stepping in the Octagon with Muhammad Naimov. I'm going to go along with Muhammad to get the win. I just haven't been impressed by Eric Silva, so I'm going to go along with him to get the win. Overall, I think this is going to be a really good card this Saturday night. It definitely does. It's a little bit more top heavy as you look at it, but I definitely think it's going to be a good card. I definitely think it's going to be better than an Apex card. What's up, Apex? Yeah, I'm calling you out, Apex. I'm calling out your suspect cards. Your cards are sus. I'm calling you out. So I definitely think this card is going to be much better than those cards, but we shall see. So it goes down this Saturday night in Mexico. The UFC in the main event, Brandon Moreno stepping in the octagon with Brandon Raw Dog Royval, as well in the co-main event, Yair Rodriguez stepping in there with Brian Ortega. So it should be, an outstanding card. We're going to take a look at it, see how it goes down. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know some of the picks that you have. I appreciate, those who commented on my last video asking questions about the Makhachev fight. What if Makhachev stepped in there with Ilia Topuria? So I appreciate you guys for bringing up those points and your points of view. So let's keep it going, guys. If you got any points of view, any picks, feel free to throw them in the comments. I just want to create a forum in which we can all kind of interact, speak back and forth about who you think's going to win, So let me know what you think. And I do want to thank you all for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I check you next time. Peace.